Who's your favorite slasher? Mike Myers? Freddy Krueger? Jason Voorhees? Maybe it's Norman Bates, Leatherface, or even Chucky. Well, my favorite slasher is a little different. She's got that extra something special about her. The Sleepaway Camp trilogy is one of my favorites, filled with quotable dialogue, memorable kills, clever continuity, and character development. And the character development's actually focused on its lead, Angela, who, instead of being the antagonist, I find to be the protagonist of the trilogy. So to discuss this, we have to get into spoilers. Like big spoilers. The end of the original Sleepaway Camp is a late-night cable classic. Any kid who saw this, or even an adult who saw this movie, remembers the ending more than anything. So, here come spoilers, so get ready. 8 years after the tragic death of her father and brother, Angela Baker and her cousin Ricky get sent to a camp by their weird aunt, who's very eccentric and creepy in the first part of this movie, right? And the opening boat scene's hilarious. They just cut to these reaction shots as the boat kills the father and the brother. It's so I think the brother Peter. It's hilarious. I mean, it's supposed to be a tragic opening scene, but it's just directed so in such a funny way, and it's such a low budget movie. But it's kind of trying to recreate the Friday the 13th thing, like some tragic thing happened. Does somebody want revenge all these years later? Sort of. It's not totally Friday the 13th. This movie's actually, it had a lot of influences when you watch it. Okay, so once they get to the camp, Ricky seems like a really popular kid. Like, everyone likes him, and he's just trying to get girls. He's trying to get girls to pay attention to him and kiss him and spend time with them, probably have sex. You know, he's a young teenage boy. Of course, that's what he wants. You know, that's fine. And Angela's all shy and doesn't really talk. She gets picked on by the other girls in her bunk, and, the girls at camp are all really mean, and she doesn't seem to know how to connect with anyone. Like, one girl comes up and makes fun of her boobs or something like that, and they're all in bikinis, and Angela's scared to go swimming around other people. And then one boy, he's being really sweet to her. But then a series of murders begin to occur. For a while, we feel like we're getting another summer camp slasher flick like Friday the 13th. There's a lack of gore, too, and some really awkward and funny scenes throughout the whole movie, which I don't know if these funny scenes were intentional or they were just happy accidents that ended up being great. This film's actually got pretty decent reviews, even from film critics, so part of me thinks it was just they knew what they were doing. None of that matters, though, really. The ending is where it's at. In the finale, we find out the killer is actually Angela, who it turns out is actually Peter, the brother of Angela, who survived the accident. We are led to believe that Peter was the one who died, but it was actually Angela, Peter's aunt, started dressing him up as a girl, making Peter the daughter she never had. The final image of the movie is of a naked Angela, penis and all, holding a knife in one hand and a severed head in the other. All at once, the ending is scary, funny, and weird. The special effects looking so cheap actually makes this moment scarier, and it always gets a huge reaction whenever I show it to someone for the first time. That's right, my favorite slasher is Angela Baker. They recast the role for the sequels. This time it's Pamela Springsteen, the sister of Bruce Springsteen, which is pretty cool. What the sequel did is just incredible. They bring Angela back as a counselor this time. She's been rehabilitated and accepted herself as a transgender person. However, it doesn't take long for her old ways to return, and Angela starts killing campers she finds to be naughty. She is the moral arbiter of the situation, which is relevant in the 80s and the MPAA and politics at that time and films at that time. A lot of commentary here. One of the earliest satires of the genre that I could think of. The film plays more like a comedy than a slasher. The writing is sharp and focused. Angela's just tossing out one-liners like a character in a Shane Black flick. Pamela Springsteen's performance is great. She has tons of charisma, an overload of charisma, and actually seems to enjoy killing people. Like, it's weird that she's sitting around these gory situations and the second and third film do have a bit more gore. And she's just sitting there with a smile on her face, just this happy smile. It's great work. They set up a male character in the sequel that feels like a possible lead. His dad's a cop and actually figures out who Angela is. This isn't the typical slasher film, though. Angela cuts this dude's head off with a smile on her face, and the focus of the story turns to Molly, the only camper Angela considers to be good. Angela just kills the crap out of everyone. This typically happens after a character has sex or says something mean to someone else or Angela, or just does something bad, like looking at, like there's pictures of Angela's boobs. Somebody took a picture of with her changing her shirt, and anyone who looked at that picture, she has to kill now. That's her logic. If you party, if you smoke weed, if you go have sex in the woods, you're gonna get killed in this movie. The movie isn't really dated, though. It still plays well as a satire and benefits from its low budget feel and a good script. It's one of the most underrated films of its type. It's Scream before Scream was a thing. Unhappy Campers was followed with a direct sequel called Teenage Wasteland, filmed immediately after at the same camp as Part 2. Now, this time, Angela returns to the camp again. This time pretending to be a camper again. She's not being a counselor, I don't think. I think she's just being another one of the kids there camping, hanging out. And a new group comes in. New people run the camp now. There's new kids and everything. Every movie introduces a new crop of characters, which is great. But Angela's the continuity, and there's other continuity. The cop father, whose son got his head cut off in the second film, is in the third film, hunting down Angela Baker, wanting revenge. So in this film, Angela puts on a wig as a disguise in the beginning of the movie and runs someone over with like a truck. And the brick wall, as she does this in an alleyway, says Angela's back. It's amazing. This one's full-blown comedy. It never even tries to be scary. It's just... The biggest issue with Teenage Wasteland isn't that it's not great. It's just that if you've seen 2, it's only a little disappointing because you can tell they maybe had slightly less money, a script that was as well fleshed out and as comedic, and it's not as fresh as it was the first time. But the third one's still very good. Highly recommend Teenage Wasteland. Like there's a kill where Angela runs a woman's head over with a lawnmower. Or when she just beats people with sticks, a lot of the time you'll just be in a tent and she'll come over with a stick or something and just start beating the crap out of you. She puts firecrackers in a kid's mouth. She ties a kid up to a tree and like pulls his body parts up, he pulls his body apart with a car. She's great. And when she does this, she always has a smile. She's always saying a one-liner. She's always happy. She's joyful. She sees summer camp as the way we all do in movies like Meatballs and stuff in her head, which it probably wasn't like. But she wants it to be this perfect, happy summer camp film, And everyone else in the film is basically trying to be in a party 80s movie. So she has to make it a slasher to get it the way she wants. They have her get really screwed up, though, because she's very traumatized about how her aunt treated her. So in the third film, she's having, like, flashbacks to the second film and the Molly character. She's thinking about her life. It's weird because it's so unique having a transgender, like, serial killer, because it does make Angela different, knowing that Angela was a guy, and maybe Angela wasn't actually trans, but was forced to become transgender by their aunt by being like abused for years, being had makeup put on and hair or fake hair and a dress, and traumatized by the death of her brother and her father. So Angela's character makes a lot of sense. It's almost like she went crazy that day and then hid in this vessel. Peter hid in this vessel of Angela, and then it came out more and more until Peter accepted being Angela and liked being Angela, to where being Angela was joyful. But they always try to make you feel emotional for Angela. Like there are scenes where they have this part where she's playing guitar and it's all happy and she can't really sing that good, but everyone else is kind of making fun of it, not enjoying it. She kills the crap out of the cop dad, which is amazing. It's so tragic. If you're a character in these movies, you don't get a break. And then there's this couple that starts hooking up, this like a guy and this girl, and she's a redhead, and he's like a gang kid, he's been on the streets and stuff, and they start getting together, and they have a cutaway sex scene. At the end of this movie, Angela sets up this brilliant little, like, game show. She has they're able to run through this obstacle course, and if they can get through it without dying, they get to escape. And she has traps set up everywhere, so it's these 3 characters trying to escape all these traps Angela set up. It might be more than 3, but I think it was only 3 kids. But they go through like these houses, and they go through the cabins, and she has stuff in there like a haunted house. It's so funny, and she's just being a douche about it. She's so cruel. The satire and black comedy of it's just what stands out for me. The first film I don't think is as much of a satire, but it's really entertaining. There's great lines of dialogue. The kid Ricky's actually really likable. The actress who plays Angela, I think, gives a very good performance. That final effect's great. It's just well paced and put together. I prefer it to the first Friday the 13th, which I find very boring until Pamela Voorhees shows up in the third act, and then it gets interesting. For that, it's just campers hanging out, slowly getting killed. I'd much rather watch, Sleepaway Camp. At least there's it's just more energy to it. There's more charisma to the actors, and there's just more stuff to cling on to. It's not just boring trying to be Hitchcock or something. It's actually a fun movie. The sequels, though, holy crap! In a world of Joss Whedon and Shane Black and so many self-aware writers of genres and deconstruction about stuff like horror and now that this movie came out in the mid 80s and it didn't get a very wide release, it became more of a cult classic on VHS and DVD. The DVD release on this film, the original DVD box set, that first aid kit one, is absolutely brilliant. I love every single thing about it, the design, the quality. Scream Factory did release these awesome Blu-rays that have bitchin' ass covers that I can't deny, and I am upset I don't have those. But let's just read the back of the first aid kit and what the description is. This is hilarious. Welcome, campers. Are you ready for some summer fun where arts and crafts meet stalk and slaughter? While the days run red with the blood of the not-so-innocent. You'll find everything you need right here in the Sleepaway Camp Survival Kit. Your cruel summer begins with the original Sleepaway Camp, the grisly and perverse shocker that became one of the most surprising horror hits of the 80s. In Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers, everyone's favorite transsexual psychopath... Oh, that's right, that's back when they used to say transsexual. And then they just decided a few years ago it's transgender now. But it used to be transsexual, I think is what you said. Favorite transsexual psychopath is all grown up and ready to teach bad campers the proper paths to clean living and messy dying. Kill crazy counselor Angela Baker returns in Sleepaway Camp 3, Teenage Wasteland, to deliver a few lessons in sharing to horny teens and dirty-minded adults in her own sick and special way. Get ready for gratuitous nudity, gore galore, and some very scary singing. Make any season a summer to dismember with the Sleepaway Camp Survival Kit. That's the thing, the gratuitous nudity, there are some great boobs in this trilogy. Like, if you're a teenage boy, or if you like 80s boobs, back when movies had boobs, there's amazing, big, beautiful boobs in these movies, and I highly recommend going to see them. Great boob counter. Like, if you want to just count the boobs, they pop up ever so often. You're like, damn, even Pamela Springsteen, if those are actually her boobs, you get to see her boobs, which is pretty cool. I won't deny I have a crush on Pamela Springsteen. I find her very, very attractive. And it's not just because of looking attractive. I think she's a good-looking chick. But it's the way she acts in these movies, how funny she is, how she reacts to these horrific situations. It's kind of my dream girl. I mean, I'm not too big on the transsexual part, but the way she acts about things to everyone at this camp is so amazing. It's like, I think I would enjoy in this fantasy world, not reality, killing campers with her and being her boyfriend and being there with her. Like, when I was young and first saw these, I really liked Angela. I don't got a crush on Freddy or Jason or Mike Myers, but I do. I got a big crush on Angela. I'd love to meet Pamela Springsteen. She took that first movie from cult status and made a trilogy that I think deserves to be iconic in her performance. Even on the front of this DVD set, it says, "Camp can be murder." Boy, is it ever. They were going to make a fourth film, Sleepaway Camp for the Survivor, that never really happened. And then they did Sleepaway Camp The Return, which was horrible. That was made years later. But the original trilogy still holds up. I usually try to watch them all together. I think they flow well together. The recasting of Angela's a little off, but if you try to think of it that she went and had a sex change and everything, it's like, oh, that makes more sense. She would look different. She had plastic surgery and all that. That's how I try to picture it. That's why Angela looks so different. But it's just a great trilogy how it leads into the second film, and that they had that genius premise of bringing Angela back as a counselor, and then we go into the third film, and it goes back to the teenagers. It comes full circle. The third film probably feels the cheapest in a lot of ways, but I still love it. I think it's got some of the funnier moments. But 2, to me, is the masterpiece. That's the classic. That I don't know why Angela isn't on T-shirts, why Angela isn't at every Hot Topic. Where you go and you just see the T-shirts for all the slasher villains. Nobody ever has an Angela shirt. Sure, horror fans know this series, and it's got a cult status, but man, Angela should just be iconic. She's funnier, she's more interesting, she's actually got pathos, she has a backstory that's really... I mean, there's a lot to her that makes her great, not just evil. Mike Myers and Freddy in a lot of ways represent evil, and they have terrific backstories that I think work as great mysteries and explore evil Not just evil in a supernatural sense, but in humanity. But Angela, on the other hand, is an exploration of a certain, I don't know, type of person that's very prominent, sometimes trying to censor people or telling people what's right or wrong. There's always a lot of authority figures telling you, in the 80s in particular, 90s, and even now, how to produce things, how to make our art, what kind of music you should listen to, what kind of movies you should watch, what kind of TV shows. You have the freedom to like any of it, but people like to question your taste. Because I was a horror fan and I like gore and I like sexual content, I like nudity in movies. Some people think they think negative of people like that. It's particular in the 80s. There was a lot of a stigma towards slasher flicks and people who went to see them. Critics would never give them good reviews. They would just hate on them. Now, I'm not saying that it's fascist. Of course, there's been much worse treatments of art and expression throughout history in other parts of the world. But Sleepaway Camp very much captures the American spirit in a lot of ways. It's Bruce Springsteen wrote the song "Born in the USA." As a protest song, and I kind of take Pamela Springsteen's performance here as Angela as a bit of a protest towards censorship. And not just censorship, but people telling everyone that a slasher flick is just needless violence and sex and pointless and it doesn't mean anything. That's Angela's attitude. Like, I have to kill these kids who are bad. They're doing these bad things that you shouldn't be watching. You shouldn't be viewing these movies. That's the layer. That's the layers to this that are really interesting. So, highly recommend the Sleepaway Camp trilogy. Wish I could show you guys some clips and stuff like that, but you just need to watch it for yourselves. It's easy to get access to. I think the first one's even on YouTube. They used to be on Netflix. But I am a happy camper with this series.